Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Olympus Wealth Strategies Podcast, where we help you take your finances to great heights. Today, we're not going to talk a whole lot about finances. We're actually going to talk about something hopefully a lot more exciting for a lot of listeners. We've got a special guest with us today, Coach Neil Erisman. He is the head coach for the University of Arkansas Little Rock's Division I wrestling program, and very thankful to have him on the podcast with us today. Appreciate you coming on, Neil.
John, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here with Olympus and get to talk to you a little bit about wrestling and investing, not just investing in wealth, but also in wrestling. So we appreciate you a lot.
Yeah. You guys make a lot of different types of investments, right? Obviously in people's athletic careers, but you grow, and we'll talk about this later on, but you grow a lot of boys that come to you into really good men. And I think everybody in the community would say that. Maybe just tell us about who you are, a little bit about your background, what makes up Neil.
Yeah. I mean, there's a saying that hard work works. And I think that growing up as a small town kid in DeSoto, Kansas, I learned that pretty quick. My dad owned his own business and taught me the value of hard work, and was able to wrestle throughout high school because of all the efforts that my family put in, and was able to go to Oklahoma State University where I wrestled. And
Wrestling powerhouse.
Yeah, wrestling powerhouse, the best one. The best
besides UALR.
Besides UALR, but historically the best program, I guess you would say. And then was able to coach there for a couple of years, and then coached high school at Stillwater High School, which was probably my most valuable, best experience I've ever had. Learned so much being a high school coach. And I was able to get the opportunity to go to the University of North Carolina for the Tar Heels for 4.5, 5 years as assistant coach before Little Rock started as a brand new program in 2018, where I was hired as the first coach.
So tell us a little bit about the family dynamic.
Yeah. I got a big family, my wife, Kelly, and then I have 6 kids from ages, the oldest will be 13 next month. So 13 all the way to 1.5, 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, and almost 2.
And how many men do you have on the roster right now?
We have 32 athletes on the roster right now.
So guys, he's a head coach and he juggles about 40 kids under his umbrella.
Yeah, you could say that.
So did you always want to be a wrestling coach? Obviously wrestling's in your blood. It's your passion. Neil's very humble. He's not going to tell you all of his accolades, but he won national tournaments. He was obviously he went to the most pedigreed collegiate wrestling program. And obviously he's built this program up, and we'll talk about the rise of UALR's wrestling. But maybe just kind of tell us why you wanted to get into coaching.
Yeah, so it's a funny story. So my dad owned car dealerships, and I thought I was going home to sell cars, to be honest with you. And I remember my wife and I just got married, which was, I graduated college. We got married I think 2 weeks later. And we were kind of packing up the house to go back to Kansas City, from the area that I was from. And I was going to go sell cars. And I remember Coach Smith, who was my coach, Coach John Smith, is 6-time World Olympic champion, considered one of the greatest wrestlers ever. His margin of victory was by 8 points. And in wrestling, that's like 3 touchdowns in football.
It's almost like a mercy rule in baseball, right?
Yeah. So he was the best of the best. And so he brought me in, he's like, hey, he called me up. He's like, Neil, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm packing to go home. And he's like, come up to my office. And so I went to his office, and he was like, do you want to stay around and be a grad assistant and coach? And he's like, we'd love to have you. I think you're going to be great at it. And I was like, I wasn't even on my radar, let alone my bingo card for the day.
So this guy that was obviously, you can argue the best U.S. wrestler in history so far, saw that within you. Yes. Yeah. That's special.
He asked me to do it. And so, I went home and told my wife, and I was like, unpack, we're staying, and then he told me how much he was paying, and I realized it was basically free, but, started my coaching career at Oklahoma State and really learned a lot about, coaching's the synonym for coaching is servant, and in my opinion. And so that's kind of how I started my coaching career and learned to start serving other people.
Well, I think that service has shown, right? Because you went, like you said, your story, grad assistant, Oklahoma State, Stillwater High, which for people who don't know, Oklahoma State's in Stillwater, so it's the high school adjacent to the college, and then packed up and moved across the country to go be an associate head coach, assistant head coach at North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yes, that's correct. So if you know anything about Oklahoma girls, it's really hard to get an Oklahoma girl out of Oklahoma. So
I did the same thing moving Aubrey from San Diego to Arkansas.
There you go.
I understand the mountain you climb on that.
That is correct. So I had to kind of drag my wife, strap her to the tailgate and tell her let's go. And we went and made a life, made a home out of Chapel Hill, and it was a place that we just great experience, complete, invaluable the amount of stuff that we learned and went through and had to grow together through that it was just super important for us as a couple and our family. And was fortunate enough to help build that program. We were pretty bad when we got there. My buddy became the head coach and brought me along with him, and we took it to a top 15, top 10 team pretty quick, and we were rocking and rolling when they made the announcement in Cleveland in 2018 that they were going to start a brand new Division I program for the first time in 23 years at the University of Arkansas Little Rock. And I remember texting my wife and saying, "That sounds like a job and a place for me. Let's check it out." Basically what I said. And she said, "Arkansas, are you kidding me?"
A lot closer to Oklahoma.
But it is, and that was that was kind of the kicker at first. And fortunately, my wife is she's the best coach's wife. She just jumps in and goes and doesn't give a lot of pushback, and was fortunate enough to get an interview, and we fell in love pretty quick.
So for a lot of listeners, especially for a lot of our listeners here in Arkansas, right, the hurdle, and we'll talk about the hurdles you faced, is obviously, there's a person I'm sure you'll mention here soon that made a massive investment to bring wrestling to the state of Arkansas. But unlike the home states we grew up in or the state that you wrestled collegiately at, it's a brand new sport to the state. And so maybe tell our listeners what collegiate wrestling at a high level is, because some people are going to think WWE, right? And that's not it. They're not throwing chairs. Neil's not coaching them to hit each other with chairs. So, and also kind of the character traits that your men have to have being wrestlers.
Yeah. So wrestling, very much what you see in the Olympics, it's very similar. The only difference between what you would see in the Olympics on TV and us is that the points are scored different. Some of the rules are different, but we're definitely not. We try to make it a production, but it's not a production like we spend a lot of time walking out and we're slamming beers together, and we don't do those types of things. These are athletes that have, well, I'll just say this: wrestling's a generational sport for the most part, which is why what we're doing is so special here in Arkansas. We're still in our infancy age of bringing the sport to the state, and so a lot of these athletes have been doing this since they were 5 years old, going week in and week out to tournaments all over the country, just trying to get better at wrestling. Just, wrestling's something, it's the oldest sport in the history, along with track and field, all the way back to, to the first Olympics. It's been a part of it. And so it's what your kids do in the living room. And so naturally there's a lot of people that are interested in it. And so they spend their life working to be great at wrestling, to develop their skills, to be able to have that opportunity to go compete for an NCAA title. And I think that's been the pinnacle of our sport in the United States for a long time. And then on top of that, a lot of kids start to see that there's more opportunity for the world championships and the Olympics. And so you got these young men that have spent their whole life just developing grit and toughness and skills, what it takes to essentially fight another human being and control another human being. And that's a very hard thing. It's a physically hard thing. It's a mentally hard thing. Mental toughness in wrestling is above all. And it's emotionally hard because another human is trying to hold you down and take something from you. And that can be a very, very difficult thing. So wrestling at its most purest form is just a art of controlling another person and taking them down. And
what's difficult about that is, right, whether it's football or basketball or baseball, you can kind of mask behind if you have a weak spot on your team, right? Where you might have the Heisman Trophy winner being the quarterback or the running back, and you might be a pretty decent, wide receiver, offensive lineman, right? But in wrestling, like when we show up to the dual meets or the tournaments, yes, it's your team, but that person that goes out there, it's one-on-one, right? There's nowhere to run and hide. It is literally just you.
One-on-one, one of the greatest tests of strength, speed, skill that one can do. And the spotlight's on you. When I got to college, we were wrestling in front of 13, 14, 15,000 people, and the duel's on the line, and you've developed and you've worked your whole life for those types of moments, and you can't hide. You can't hide. Your who you are as a person comes out in that moment. If you're a quitter, it's going to show up. If you're someone who half-butted it and didn't work hard, all the time, it's going to show up. And so I think that's the beauty of it, is that it really exposes you who you are as a human and challenges you to work on that every single day. If you would have watched just our first 3 years, we were pretty bad, and we've got a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and we've had the best dual record over the last 2 seasons across the NCAA. We finished top 15 in dual meets last year. We finished top 17 in the NCAA tournament with 2 All-Americans. And in wrestling to be
back-to-back
years. And in wrestling to be an All-American, it's not something that is some sort of arbitrary vote that a
not
group of people.
Some season combined statistic, right?
No,
all that gets thrown away.
You start over, and you got to place top 8 in the tournament. And
how many qualify for each weight class?
Yeah,
how many qualify to go to the national tournament?
33.
Okay, so out of all the programs, the best 33 kids make it to nationals. And then from there, to be an All-American, you have to be in the top 8 of those 33.
Yeah, so you work your way through a double elimination bracket. And the way that I explain it is, it's like starting in the basketball tournament, and you have to already win a game to be in the tournament. So you're starting basically in the second round of the NCAA basketball tournament. There's 32 people. There's one pigtail where they wrestle into the number 1 seed. Much like in the NCAA tournament in basketball, there's a play-in game, and it's 3 days, and you got to be a warrior. There's people with torn ACLs, broken this, broken that, and nobody cares. Like you're there to accomplish your goal, and if you don't place top 8 and make it to the semis in place, or win in the blood round is one of the most iconic rounds in wrestling ever.
And that determines who becomes an All-American.
Yeah, so that's top 12. So you could be top 12 in the country, not win that round, which I know what that feels like, and not be an All-American and fall short, and still be number 9 in the country, but you're not an All-American.
Which that's the baseline goal for a lot of your athletes, is to be an All-American.
Yeah, that's where it starts. Really, it's really hard to even make the national tournament. There's a lot of criteria that goes into that. That's really hard. We qualified 6 last year.
Out of 10, which is incredible.
Yeah. So 60% of our guys went to the NCAA tournament. And then getting guys on the podium, it's usually a select group of power forward schools that have consistently hogged
pedigree schools like your alma mater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State's, Iowa's, Penn State's, Ohio State. Those are kind of the main schools. And there's a handful of
schools that have, I would say, generationally, their great-grandfather wrestled, all the way down to the grandkids are wrestling, right?
Yeah.
So it's just embedded in their blood. That's their growing up. That's their winter or year-long training, right?
That's just what they do.
Versus maybe let's kind of talk about, all right, you heard this brand new program in 23 years is getting created at the Division I level, a lot closer to Oklahoma, seems interesting, but there's a lot of hurdles. And like you talked about, the first few years, it was a challenge to get to where you started versus where you guys are today. So maybe kind of walk us through, you come here in Little Rock and you start literally from scratch.
Yeah. Man, 2018, I was hired in July 27th of 2018. That was my official first start date. I had a year to recruit a team, and I was by myself. Had no assistant coach, hadn't hired Coach Javi yet. And the goal was to get 24 guys on the team. Most teams carry 35 to 40 guys, but we wanted to grow over time. And so recruited 24 guys, ended up with 26 actually once I hired Coach Javi.
Seems incredible you even got 26 guys interested. Now, granted, to come wrestle at a Division I program is special, but it's not like you can sell the story. You can't sell your alma mater story. You can't sell all these other Big 10 or Big 12 school stories. It's from scratch.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe what we were doing, I remember, so on campus where our facility is, there was an old tennis court there. It was run down. The fence was tore down. Nobody had played on it in years. And my first recruit, Connor Ward, who ended up committing to us and being our first, he was the first. That was kind of our message, right? Be the first. And I was standing on the middle of the tennis court where the middle of one of the nets is, and I measured it all out. I had it all taped out, spray painted X's here. And I said, hey, look, this is what our facility is going to be. We're going to build this, 16,000 square foot wrestling facility, the Greg Hatcher Wrestling Center. And, hey, look, over here is going to be the locker room, offices, weight room, mat room, sauna, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I'd always say, much like we're building this facility, this is what we're doing. We're building this program. And you got to have the vision, even though you can't see this facility right now. You got to see what we're going to do, and you got to have the vision like I have for the program, and I'm going to lay that out for you. And that's really where we started.
And just having that belief, right?
Just that belief, right?
And then the determination, hey, we're not there today, but we're going to keep executing daily to get there.
Every day. And keeping focused on the little things and the value system that we brought, just creating those right choices every day to create those habits that takes a certain amount of discipline to develop your character. I had guys that there's a guy named Dylan Johnson from Woodlawn, Arkansas, who, was one of the first to come out of high school to wrestle junior college that transferred to me. He won one match his first year, and then he went 500 his last year. And, you probably say, oh, okay, well, he's 500, but from where we were at to where we got in those first 3 years was pretty incredible. And it's just a testament to, great athletes who buy and believe into what you're doing, a great message, a strong value system, and guys, coaches that believe, and administration that had the vision with you to stay the course. Because it could have been easy to say, Neil, it's year 3, you've won 2 duels. What are we doing, right? But they stayed with me and fought through it with me. And then year 4, we won 4 or 5 matches. And then year 5, we exploded, right? And we all felt it coming. We just felt like we had the guys, we had the team. Year 4 was super frustrating because I felt like we were
just on the cusp.
It was like every little moment that was important for us to have success, we lost it. But we actually were in those moments for the first time. And watching year 5, where we go and we get 2 All-Americans, we finish top 20. We're the fastest team ever in the history of the NCAA wrestling to be the top 20.
And I think we should highlight that a lot of schools across the country have decided to close down their wrestling program. And here you are with a brand new program, and within 5 years, you're top 20 in the country, taking on these pedigreed schools that we've referenced and getting guys on the podium.
Yeah, it was super incredible just how it all came together. But I don't think that anybody that truly knew was shocked, because the amount of great guys we had, the coaching staff we had, I think we all just felt it was a matter of time, and we just took advantage of our time. And I think that's really what we did best. But man, it was just being able to be the fastest team to reach those goals. One of the things that I remember talking about in my interview with the former AD, Chase
mutual friend of ours.
Yeah, mutual friend, Chase Conk. He's at UTRGV starting a brand new football program. Yeah. So he's no stranger to hard. I remember telling him in my interview, I was like, I think the one thing when I listen to people talk that separates me is that I understand and accept the responsibility of starting a brand new program. We're the first time in 23 years. We have to do this right. If we want an opportunity to continue to grow our sport, we have to be successful. And I was like, success is not just measured on the mat. You're going to have to give me time to build a culture. You're going to have time to instill the values, to recruit at a high level, and then we'll be successful. And then when we're successful, it'll be sustained. Mm-hmm. And we'll be a model for everyone in the South, or, that was kind of my thing, was the South needs more wrestling. And I really wanted to be that model for everybody. And Now you're seeing programs bring back their programs, and I'm not saying it's because of UALR or University of Arkansas Little Rock, but I would say that we might have played a small piece to show success.
To show it's possible.
It's possible.
Right? With the right vision, belief system, and values, it is possible.
That's right.
So as a head coach, obviously there's a lot of things going on. We talked about we talked about change. As a head coach, what are maybe some of the biggest challenges you face now that you've gotten to the level of success? What's some of the biggest challenges you face today?
Well, I think there's the obvious ones that everyone talks about: transfer portal, NIL, which is now rev share, and you got all sorts of names for it. Just the changing landscape of how people are raised. I think that people don't talk about a lot,
Yeah.
That we're going to be recruiting kids in 3 years that don't know anything different than the NIL era and expect money when they get here. And so I think those are the challenges. I think the other challenge is staying on the cutting edge. I think great leaders can react to situations and respond, but I think elite leaders can stay ahead of the curve. And for us, we're trying to reach a new level, and there's a lot of things that we want to do, and we want to be ahead of the curve. We no longer want to chase. We want to lead. We want to be at the front of the pack. We don't want to follow. And so you gotta play the game to be in the game. You got to be in it to win it. We've played the game. We're in it. We showed that we don't just want to compete, but it's time for us to stay ahead. It's just to catch the next group in the pack to be at the top.
And without giving away the recipe to your success, what are maybe some high-level things that would allow you to stay ahead of the pack and go from consistently placing people on the podium, having All-Americans on the team, top 15, top 20 in the country, to taking it to that next level and leading it at a different level?
Yeah, so I would say that it's easy to get caught up in when answering this question and all the things you want, and you have to be very strategic in your thinking about how you articulate it. For me, we obviously have to participate in the NIL rev share game.
It just seems like without that, it's going to be very hard to get the talent pool that is commanding commanding that money for their talent.
Yes.
Without that, it seems very hard to go after and compete with your type of schools like your alma maters.
True. But also we develop, that's the thing we do best. You got to keep your talent.
Right.
And we've done a really good job of that. We lost a couple guys that were really good, but we brought some good talent in because we could participate in these things. So
and you kept both All-Americans.
And we kept both All-Americans this year, which is a testament to our culture and the guys and to, them believing. So, I would just say participating in the game is number one, rev share, and number two, student athlete experience. And that's tied to putting people in the seats. We need to put people around our mat side, our ambassador club, and put people in the stands. We had 2,200, 2,300 people against Oklahoma State this year, the largest crowd at the Jack. So cool. You were there for it. It was, we wrestled well too. I'll let you speak to that.
The Neil's team, those guys, I'll just quickly give a little diatribe here. It was the first dual meet that my wife was able to come to, and she had never watched a collegiate wrestling match. We go in there, I tell her, I said, hey, Oklahoma State at the time was ranked number 2 in the country. I said, Aubrey, it's the equivalent of like Alabama football coming in town, and Neil's team's good, but these guys are elite. And all of a sudden, they start off the dual meet, and everything that seems that they needed to go right, and Neil talked about, like he said earlier, put yourself in situations for things to go right, they went right. And it was consistently going right. And for a lot of the tournament up until maybe the last, 2 or 3 weight classes, the Trojans were beating the Cowboys. And we're sitting there, everybody's high-fiving each other. The place, you could just feel the electricity. It was about to erupt. And the Trojans fell just short. But it was something where I thought, wow, Neil is literally on the edge of being a top program in the whole country, which was extremely exciting.
Yeah, it was, it was incredible. And I think that that atmosphere is really one thing we want to continue to grow. to bring the student athlete experience in, along with student athlete experiences, is we want to completely, I say exploit, I don't know if that's the correct term, but sports performance. We want to be on the cutting edge of sports performance for our athletes.
A lot that goes into that.
Nutrition, not just food, but hydration, proper hydration, being able to use wearables to measure these things, being able to have recovery modalities or a simple way, recovery machines to make that happen so that we can recover faster and better. And to be able to utilize all the things that we want to do. And we want to get down and learn the athlete at a cellular level of who they are, whether it be genetic testing and hair or blood testing to see where they're deficient. We want that experience to be a professional experience, that it's much like walking into any professional organization and knowing who that athlete is from head to toe, in and out, A to Z, and being able to help them in the best possible way. And we're putting those things in place.
And kind of like it in my world that I live in, right? I talk to clients and potential clients about, we don't provide cookie cutter solutions, right? You can't just have a one size fits all. And that's what you're doing, right? You're providing very customized solutions to each one of your athletes to understand who they are, like you said, at a cellular and DNA level, to be able to give them very customized, whether it's nutrition, hydration, training, everything that goes under that, to get them to their peak athletic performance.
And that's really what it's about. I think just a simple way to put it would be like when an athlete finishes a wrestling period, there's 3 periods in a college match, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. When they finish the first period, we want their heart rate to go from 125 to 60 back to their resting heart rate in that 30-second break. We know that they can recover at the highest point. Then you get the best output, right? And in one piece we didn't talk about is just sports psych. We want to be able to support these student athletes in that way, mentally.
They ride a lot of highs and lows.
They do. It's an emotional sport.
And the spectator just expects them to almost be robotic, right?
You expect them to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys that do handle it is because they handle it every day, and they control it, and they put their facts over their feelings, and they tell themselves the truth. But that would be the second pillar. And then the last pillar would be, we want to be able to provide elite level training partners. And in wrestling, we have what's called regional training centers, which are places that are run through our governing body, USA Wrestling, where, in a very simple term, allows professional athletes to train at colleges alongside the college athletes, right? And so, for instance, I'm a Chiefs fan. I grew up in Kansas City. I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. If I was coaching at the University of Arkansas, I would love to have Pat Mahomes training side by side with my quarterback every day.
Will only make you better.
It'll only make you better. And we have the ability to do that here at Little Rock. And we have a organization called the Arkansas Regional Training Center that we're going to be hiring our first athletes this year. And we're looking to grow that and expand that. But more importantly, we're looking to grow it organically. We want our guys that are homegrown, came here, believed in our system, to stay and be able to stay and accomplish their dreams. This was set up so that athletes, when they're done with college, they can go compete at the world championships. They can go compete at the Olympics to really reach the pinnacle of our sport. So those 3 pillars would be the main ways that we want to support our student athletes. And we're trying to be very creative and cool of how we do that.
Well, Neil's always talking about how he can help and support and serve others, but let's take a moment and talk about how listeners can help support the program.
Sure.
and make those pillars, whether it be for the athletes, coaches, the experience, what they can do and what you've set up to facilitate, assistance from everybody.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is get your butt to the jack. Come watch a duel. You go once and you're hooked. Mm-hmm. We love seeing people at our duels. We need you to be at our duels. We need you. It's 5 or 6 events a year, an hour and a half at a time. Bring your kids. It's a family, fun, friendly atmosphere. It's wholesome, and your kids are going to watch and learn. They're going to watch 2 warriors fight 10 times over. And it's not a negative experience, it's a positive experience to show that you can put hard work into something and dedicate everything from your body, your soul, your mind to this, and you can accomplish something. So I think the first way would be show up. The second way would be buy tickets, be a part of our ambassador club. And
what is that?
So our ambassador club is we have mat side seats that sit around our mat, and there's 85 of them, and we sell them out every year. And we're looking to expand that and to be able to sit mat side. But what comes with that is you get access to our practices, you get access to our monthly or our every 2 month luncheons that we do, our newsletter. You get a cool pullover, which I'm sure you can attest to was pretty stinking nice.
The experience is next level, and for really a modest donation to the program, you all create a very high-end experience that results in feeling like you are a part of the team, right? We're the outside spectators rooting you on, but we feel like we're almost like the coaches sitting right there with the athletes.
You are. I mean, you're a huge reason why we can do the things that we do. And I think lastly would be, we have a great partnership with Greg Hatcher. Greg Hatcher owns a Hatcher agency here in Little Rock, and
the one who brought wrestling to the state.
So he brought wrestling to the state with Pat Smith, who's first 4-time NCAA champ. He wrestled for Oklahoma State, recruited me to Oklahoma State before he came to Arkansas, and he's created a really cool program where I create relationships with business owners with him. And he comes in and says, hey, look, here's how I can enrich your benefits. Here's how we can save you money. Most importantly, you're going to get some outrageous service, and we're going to take care of you. You're going to be part of the family. It's really more than doing your employee benefits with them. You're getting so much more with him. It's such a all-encompassing thing. He's going to get you in early to the hospital if you're sick because he takes care of people that well. But he's going to turn around and use those relationships, whatever we bring, to give back and donate back to our program. And so
which is incredible, right? If there's a business where you guys are interested in, it sounds like talking to the largest, most esteemed employee benefits division and insurance company, certainly in Arkansas, but throughout the South, and I would challenge probably throughout the country from a service standpoint. If you're considering, at least looking at your employee benefits, right? Talk to Neil, and it's incredible that there's a way to facilitate what would have been paid otherwise to someone's pocket or to some type of commission. It goes back to the wrestling program.
It does. Yeah. I mean, and you said it's insurance, it's this and that. I mean, you're really supporting a program with money that would normally go to someone's pocket, right? Like you said, but I think that what you're going to see is you're going to get a first-class experience, even if you decided to not do this, right? Like even if you're not in putting out requests for proposals for your employee benefits, you're going to learn a lot about what you need to know for your business. And I think you would be shocked how people he comes in and he just educates. And when you got someone who's got this much experience, and he's a winner, he just doesn't lose. That's who you want in charge of saving you money, taking care of your employees, and making your experience as seamless and as server friendly as possible. You can't go wrong with it. I know that it probably just sounds like I'm selling it because it's helpful. No,
but at the end of the day, right, there's a lot of people out there that, regardless of what field, right, you want somebody who's going to always be hungry, always looking out for you, and has a servant's heart and one that leads with education.
Yeah.
And those are the people that you want in your corner.
That's right. Right. And in the end, all you're going to do is learn and win, even if you don't go with them.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting stuff. So Neil, any kind of final thoughts on maybe outlook for the season that's coming up?
Yeah. So we got 2 returning All-Americans. We got a lot of our team back, but we also got some new faces. We got some good guys out of the transfer portal, got some good freshmen coming in. So there's a lot of this, maybe to some people, but I'm really excited about our team. I think that the transition of the off season and the portal took from us, but also gave to us. I think that the dynamics of our team is going to change in a very positive way, which it wasn't bad, but I think it's going to get stronger and better. And I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to see what we're going to be this year.
Well, Neil, I appreciate you joining us today, and really excited. Like you said, everybody, let's go pack the jack. And I'm sure when the schedule's out, we will get that all sent out to you. But thanks so much, Neil. And thanks everybody for another great episode.
All opinions expressed on the podcast by the host and guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Olympus Wealth Strategies or Uptick Partners, a registered investment advisor. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not legal advice and should not be relied upon as a basis for any decisions. The investments discussed on this podcast may not be suitable for all investors and involve risks that should be carefully considered. Listeners are encouraged to consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Certain investments may require specific investor qualifications, which not all individuals may meet. Any funds or companies discussed are not a recommendation or endorsement. Guests in the podcast might be actual clients, but are not compensated to be on the show, and their experiences are not representative of all relationships, which might differ substantially.